Alright folks, welcome. Today we're doing Bookstore on TryHackMe. It has a lot of cool concepts. It has API fuzzing, it has reversing a Unix binary. So I'm not going to waste your time and we're going to get started quickly. First, like every machine we ever do, we're going to hit it off with a scan. So I'm just going to use rust scan. I'm going to pipe it into nmap with these flags. I'll put in scan. And if you've never used rust scan before, it's an awesome port scanner programmed in Rust, obviously, by B from TryHackMe actually, and it's really fast. It's multi-thread, so it's very efficient, and it just really gets the job done. It's the fastest port scanner I've ever seen. And using these options, you can pipe only the ports that are found open into nmap. So it's a really useful tool if you're doing something that's time limited, maybe like a King of the Hill match or a Battlegrounds match or whatever. So let's see what's in that scan. And we have SSH, of course, but we also have port 80, and we also have another web server running on port 5000. It seems that we are running a workzug, and it's an API. Probably this secondary web server is probably just an API, as seen here by the disallowed entry on port 5000. So we're just going to check out both. So let's go to just port 80 first, and then we can also go to port 5000. And yep, it seems port 5000 is a REST API. This is a REST API for science fiction novels. We can navigate to the API directory if we want, and we will see all the various endpoints we are able to contact. So we can try to look at all the books, and we get it here in JSON. And it seems they also have some with an option of an API get parameter, which is pretty cool. Welcome to the bookstore, just a normal site, looks like a web template. And we can go here and we can go and log in. We're just going to do good practice first though. We're going to go bust this. So go buster dir URU for URL. Paste it in. And then we're just going to specify the default word list usually used for dirbuster, which is directory list 2.3 medium. We're going to thread it with 50 threads. And if you're new to this, GoBuster just finds hidden web directories by brute forcing names here. So far we have images, assets, JavaScript. We have a login page. Doesn't seem to do anything, but we can look at the source. And we see a little note here. Still working on this page. We'll add the backend support soon. Also, the debugger pin is inside Sid's bash history file. So that is something to note. They're referring to the debugger, which assuming we have, I can never say this name right, so I'm not going to try, the Wizard web app running. There's a console directory where you can execute code, and this usually asks for a pin, so we're assuming that that's what the pin is for this debugger. Yep, so that's valuable information to save. I'm just going to shove that in a text editor. And yep, looks good so far. We can go back to the main page and see if there's anything in the source there, but I don't think there would be. Although developers love leaving notes, this is a web template, so, you know, not likely much stuff there. We got the standard files you see here in a website, so we can take a look at assets. And we can go to JavaScript, and there's an API.js, which would probably be interesting since we know we gotta do something with this API. It's not here for laughs and giggles, so we can take a peek in there. And this seems to be just the JavaScript on the API, but we can see there's a comment here as well saying the previous version of the API had a parameter which led to local file inclusion. So we have two pieces of information. We know there's an old version of the API, and we also know there's a parameter vulnerable to local file inclusion, or three things, I guess. But we also know that the pin to the debugger, which we can use to get remote code execution in a session on the machine, is inside the bash history file. Now, if you don't know what local file inclusion is, it's basically a vulnerability, of course, in PHP. So imagine I have PHP code such as this using the include function, and I have a file in my current directory called index.html, right? So this include function is dangerous even if you were to put stuff like a filter here to replace poisonous characters, because if the include is something we can control, which it frequently is, maybe it's something like this, P for path maybe. This is getting a parameter in the web thing and then loading what's in it. So we could theoretically, since this is just including a page on the system, or a file on the system, we could locally include files and we could set P to be something like this. Right? So we're just moving up the directory tree, and then we'll access something like the etc password file, which, if you're also new to Linux, is a file on Linux, or a file on Linux. It doesn't have passwords. It used to, but now it doesn't. It just has user information. But yeah, we can access any file we want on the system, and so if this is vulnerable to local file inclusion, we can actually access, the bash history file. So we should probably take note of this and find that hidden API. We have enough information to exploit something. We go here, we see the API endpoints, we see parameters. We can try these parameters out individually if we wanted, but we know that would be very stupid and tough. So first of all, we know that it's a previous version of the API, so it says version 2 here. We can assume it's version 1, and it loads the same thing, not 404, sweet. And a parameter which led to local file inclusion. We can use a tool for this called wfuzz. It will fuzz certain parts of the URL using a given word list. So that would be helpful. And let's do just that, right? Let's put a payload in here, a standard LFI payload. So we're going to go up the directory tree like we did before. I'm going to go far up just to be safe. And password. Go back like this. And we're just going to replace this with fuzz for the sake of, so I can just copy and paste this whole thing. If you never used wfuzz before, don't worry, I will explain it. Basically, it searches for the fuzz keyword in the URL, and that is the thing it fuzzes. So we will go wfuzz, press C, Z, I think it's file, and then we can use something like user share word list, wfuzz general. Put that file there again. So we're specifying if we want to fuzz with this file, and then we're going to pass it the link. And let's also only show the code 200, so we only show responses that have a 200 response, meaning it was valid. And we put this bad boy in. It didn't seem to copy HTTP, no biggie. Just going to do this very inefficiently and pop that in there. And we should be good to go, actually. So let's press enter. And already we got something, this returned with a larger response than normal. So we can assume also that this isn't documented. So this is probably the hidden parameter that has LFI. So yeah, we can test that out. We can just pop that out of there. Go to show. And great, it's the password file. So let's do that again, and let's just do bash history for the pin. And if you've never used, I'm not gonna say the name, Wazurg, whatever, I'm saying that very wrong, work zug, whatever. you actually, there's no default pin. It actually just looks for an environment variable named this. So we can see here the person setting the pin. And then executing the API. So let's just log into the console and we can get remote code execution. Put in the pin. And here we go. We can console RCE right here, and there's a line that will execute commands for you. Let's look on hack tricks right here. How could I miss it? And let's try it out. Who am I? Sure. And we're Sid. All right, let's try something else out. Do they have netcat on this system? They do. So I'm assuming that this is an updated version of netcat. We're not allowed to use the -e flag. It's still vulnerable though, and you can still get a reverse shell on it using McFIFO. So first of all, let's start a netcat listener on 444. And then let's go to payload of all things. This is just a GitHub repository with lots of useful payloads. We'll search McFIFO, right? McFIFO, oh, this is SQL injection. Netcat McFIFO will probably put it up as well. Yep, first thing. Copy this. Let's make our payload now. We'll put it on 444 and our IP address. Right here. Place this IP address with our own. And pop it in there. Enter, and we have a shell. So this is a simple session. We want to upgrade it to a bash session, preferably. We can do this using Python, so we'll search for Python. It's on here, Python 3, code, import pty, which is a library that allows you to spawn a process, bin bash. And there we go. Nice clean shell. We don't have an xterm set, so I almost typed clear. That wouldn't work. But as you can see, we have the user.txt here, and we can own the user. Simple as that. Now we need to get roots. There is an interesting binary here called try harder. It's an ELF binary, as you can see. We can try and execute it, see what happens. What's the magic number? Just say it's incorrect, try harder. So we can assume that we need to reverse engineer this, and we will do that using a tool that lets you view the machine code of a program or assembly of a program, which is they are different. Called rdare2. So radare2, my bad. We'll transfer this file using netcat. So transfer files with netcat, because I can never remember how to do that. Okay, we'll just name this out file, sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not gonna work because I need to sudo. I don't know if I did, but whatever, I'm doing it now. And we will send this to the out file. And I already forgot our IP. I'm not used to this ZSH shell. That's a handful to say. So I don't know how to autocomplete. I don't know if it's tab or whatever. I really don't use it anyway. Actually, I have my terminal set to execute bash when I open it using this. So I don't really like it, but I use it. I'll do this again because I delete half of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4 out file. See the file here. Hello? Oh, we probably have to do try harder, not out file. Try harder. Receive it here. Yep, we got it. So out file, there it is. R2, the D flag for debug, out file. Permission denied, so let's just sudo super user do. Oh, yep, we gotta make an executable because we transferred it. So mark it with the X bit to make it executable, and then we can do that again. AAA, we're gonna type that, and what this is gonna do is it's gonna analyze the program. So once that's done, we can do AFL to list all functions. And of course, we want to look at the main, so PDF at main. If you never used Radar before, you can just specify, usually the commands are combined letters. Each letter means something, so you can just type a letter in a question mark. It will show you what it means. Here, though, we want to look at the, now this looks intimidating because it is assembly, but really it isn't. We can see here the line where the program puts this to the screen. So incorrect, try harder. And we can see that here it's comparing a variable var.ch to this value. And if it's not equal, it jumps to try harder. Now it's not as simple as just turning this to ASCII because we see here that actually scanf, which in C means take user input. Sorry, that's my dog. We see here that assuming that var14 is our user input, we move it into the EAX register, and then we perform an XOR operation with the EAX and this number. You move it, we move the output of this XOR operation into var.ch, and then we move a new value into the old EAX register, which is var10. We can look for where that is. And we're moving this value into var10, so this is now EAX, the value of EAX. And we're comparing our value from before after this EAX register with the CH up here. So we're actually doing an XOR operation again, and then we're performing that combo. So we can actually use simple maths to get the password. You can Google XOR operation. We can see here what XOR means if you're not familiar with the binary arithmetic. It's a bitwise operation, and basically it combines, or it looks at two different binary numbers, and it says if one of them is 1 and the other is 0, then the ciphertext is 1. But you can see here in this example that you can actually, as long as you have, you can use, so as long as you have two variables, you can get the missing one, right? Simple algebra, really. So we have the ciphertext, we have what it's comparing it to, and we have everything else that's XORed on, so we can actually get the original text with it. I hope I explained that well. I'm not very good at explaining things. But as long as we have all but one of the variables used to perform an operation, an arithmetic, we can get the missing variable. Because that's just how XOR works, right? So let's do that. So let's move backwards from here. We have XOR compared to this. And this is just the XOR operation in programming. Then we have it compared to EAX, which is var10, so we have it compared to this. And we also have it compared to this. So we can, via this logic of the XOR, we can actually do an XOR on these to get the plain text right here. So let's do that, and we can just do that using like Python, right? So Python, let's do that, see what we get. And this here seems to be the password. All right, so we got the password, and we can actually, before exiting, we can examine this program further. We can see what happens when we get the right password. So when it is equal to, the not equal jump doesn't execute, and it just goes straight to here, and it executes bash with privileged mode. So it just gives us a root shell if we put in the right password. So this should work. So I'm going to go back to our shell, and let's try that again. Try harder. And we see here that we are root. So we can go to the root directory, and we can take the root flag. So that was Bookshop. I really did like it. I enjoyed it. It really, I think medium is a valid rating for it, really. I like how it includes some reverse engineering in there. I actually am not familiar with any bitwise operations, so I need a bit of help on this one, which is why I felt like I needed to make a video. But yep, once I learned it, I'm like, oh, okay. Originally, I learned it because I went on Stack Overflow and looked up the inverse of an XOR operation, and then the guy on Stack Overflow said, the inverse of XOR is XOR. And I'm like, well, okay. So that was fun. Thanks to Sid Chin right here for making it. That's why the user's name was Sid. But thank you. Nice PFP. And like that box, thank you guys for watching. I'll leave the link to this room in the description. Be sure to check it out. Be sure to try it for yourself, even if you did fail and watch this write-up before you completed it, which I really discourage, and it really takes away from learning. But hopefully you watch this write-up after you finished it. If not, be sure to try this room out for yourself. It really does make a difference. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.